All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to be taking a really in-depth look at a topic that could be a total game changer for some of you out there.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about how to secure a scholarship to Imperial College London.
Mhm.
Now, Imperial College London, for those who aren't familiar, it's one of the top universities in the world. And today we're going to be diving deep, no pun intended, into their scholarship
Yeah,
programs.
yeah.
We're going to be looking at two of their key guides that they have available online. One's called the Ultimate Guide, and the other is the Complete Guide
Right.
to scholarships. And we're going to pull out all the best nuggets of information, all the stuff that you really need to know if you're thinking about applying.
Exactly. There's a ton of information out there, and it can feel pretty overwhelming,
Oh,
honestly.
yeah.
For
No.
sure. So what we want to do today is really cut through the noise and give you a very clear path forward. We're going to explore, the different scholarships that are out there. We're going to break down that application process, make it really easy to understand. And we're going to talk about some of the pitfalls that you should be looking out for. And most importantly, give you some actionable strategies that you can use to boost your chances of success.
I like it. A roadmap to success.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I think the first question that probably comes to a lot of people's minds is, why should I even bother? Like, why is an Imperial Scholarship such a big deal?
Yeah. That's a great question because it's not just about getting some money to help with your studies, though obviously that's a huge part of it.
Right.
We know Imperial College London is a prestigious institution. It comes with significant tuition fees. It's in London. So the cost of living is not exactly, peanuts,
It's not.
but it goes beyond the financial aspect.
Yeah.
Because earning an Imperial Scholarship, it's almost like this instant stamp of approval. It says that you are among the best and brightest in your field. And that kind of recognition, it opens doors. It elevates your resume, it makes you stand out from the crowd, and it connects you with a global network of incredibly talented people, professionals, researchers, academics, people who can be mentors, collaborators, future colleagues. And that network, that can be invaluable throughout your entire career.
Yeah. That's a great point. It's not just about the money, it's really about the recognition, the connections, and
Yep.
that sort of network that you can build.
Absolutely. And I think for a lot of students, they might be coming from backgrounds where they maybe don't have those existing connections in their field. So this can be a huge leg up.
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure. So, all right, with that in mind, let's talk about, some of the actual scholarships that are available. Because there's a lot of them, and they cater to different kinds of students.
Absolutely. And if we're talking about the top tier, the most prestigious scholarships that Imperial offers, especially for research students, we have to talk about the President's PhD scholarships.
Okay. President's PhD scholarships. Sounds pretty high level.
Oh, it is. It's the creme de la creme. It's designed to attract the most exceptional PhD candidates from all over the world.
So if I'm a listener and I'm thinking about doing a PhD, what does this scholarship actually give you?
So for the academic year 2024-25, which is the most recent data we have, recipients of the President's PhD Scholarship get their full tuition fees covered. They also receive a really generous annual stipend of £25,150
Wow.
to help with their living expenses.
Ah,
And here's the real kicker. You get up to £22,000 to support your research.
seriously.
Absolutely. That can cover things like buying equipment, going to conferences, all the stuff that's essential to actually conducting high-quality research.
I mean, that's a game changer, isn't it? For a PhD student, that's a huge amount of money.
Oh, it's incredible. It really allows you to focus all your energy on your studies and your research without having to worry about, making ends meet or getting funding for your projects.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Okay, so they're obviously looking for the best of the best here. What are some of the key things that they look for in a candidate for this President's PhD scholarship?
Well, first and foremost, you need to have an exceptional academic track record.
Mm-hmm.
Top grades, basically. They want to see evidence that you can handle the rigor of a PhD program.
Makes sense.
The second thing, and this is particularly important for PhD applicants, is a strong research proposal. This is where you really lay out your research plans, your methodology, the significance of your work. And it has to be convincing. It has to show that you're capable of doing original, impactful research.
So basically, you have to know what you want to research, and you have to be able to articulate that really well.
Exactly. And the final thing, which might seem a bit obvious, is that you can't already be enrolled in a PhD program somewhere else. This scholarship is for people who are at the start of their PhD journey.
Right, right. Makes sense. Okay, So that's the president's PhD scholarship. Now, what about, for those of us who are maybe more business-minded, what about Imperial's business school?
Yeah, the business school has a whole suite of scholarships as well. They're really committed to attracting top talent, both for their MBA program and their MSc programs.
Okay. And what are some of the, what are some of the popular ones that people should maybe be looking out for?
So one of the big ones is the Imperial Excellence Scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
And that one, as the name suggests, is all about academic excellence.
Well,
So they're looking for people with top grades who've really excelled in their previous studies, but they're also looking for demonstrated leadership potential. So they want to see people who have taken initiative, who have been involved in extracurricular activities. Maybe they've started their own businesses. They want people who are go-getters, essentially.
I see. So it's not just, book smarts. It's also about having a track record of actually getting things done.
Exactly. And then there's another one called the Dean's Impact Award.
Okay.
And this one is really interesting because it focuses on students who are committed to making a positive impact in the world.
I like that.
Yeah. So this could be people who are passionate about environmental sustainability, social justice. Maybe they're working on innovative solutions to global challenges.
Mm-hmm.
The business school is looking for people who want to use their business skills to make a real difference.
It's great that they have a scholarship specifically for that.
Oh, it's fantastic. And it shows that they're not just interested in, producing graduates who are going to go off and make a lot of money. They want people who are going to use their talents to improve the world.
Absolutely. Are there any other specific scholarships within the business school that we should be aware of?
Yeah. One more that's worth highlighting is the Women in Finance Scholarship.
Okay.
And this one, as the name suggests, is specifically aimed at supporting women who want to pursue a career in finance.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a really important initiative because the finance industry, historically, has been very male-dominated.
Mm.
And so this scholarship is trying to help level the playing field and create more opportunities for women.
For sure. No, that's great. Now, we've talked about the president's PhD scholarships. We've talked about some of the business school scholarships. But Imperial College London, it attracts students from all over the world, right?
And absolutely, it's a global hub.
So what about international students? Are there any specific scholarships that are geared towards them?
Oh, absolutely. There are some really great options for international students. And one of the most well-known is the Commonwealth Scholarship.
Okay. The Commonwealth Scholarship.
These scholarships are specifically designed for students from Commonwealth countries, and they're available for both master's and doctoral programs.
And what kind of support does the Commonwealth Scholarship typically provide?
It's pretty comprehensive. So they usually cover your tuition fees in full. They'll also pay for your return airfare to the UK, and they'll give you a regular stipend to help cover your living expenses. And then there are often additional allowances to help you get settled in when you first arrive.
So it's really a very generous scholarship.
Oh, yeah. It's designed to make it possible for talented students from Commonwealth countries to study at top institutions like Imperial without having to worry too much about the financial burden.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, to be eligible for the Commonwealth Scholarship, what are some of the key things that international students should be aware of?
So the first thing is, obviously, you have to be a citizen of a Commonwealth country.
Right.
Makes sense. And you need to have a really strong academic background.
Mm-hmm.
So good grades, basically. They also want to see evidence that you have the potential to make a real contribution to your home country's development after you graduate.
So they're not just looking for academic excellence, they're looking for people who are going to go back and make a difference in their communities.
Exactly. They want to see that you're committed to using your education to benefit society as a whole.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Now, another scholarship that we hear a lot about, especially for international students, is the Chevening Scholarship.
Oh, yes. The Chevening scholarships are incredibly prestigious. They're funded by the UK government,
Okay.
and they're specifically for international students who want to pursue a master's degree in the UK. And they're open to a really wide range of disciplines.
And what about the benefits? Are they similar to the Commonwealth Scholarship?
Yeah, the benefits are also really substantial. So typically, Chevening will cover your full tuition fees. They'll also give you a monthly living allowance, and they'll take care of things like your travel expenses and visa costs.
So again, a very comprehensive package.
Absolutely. They want to make sure that you can really focus on your studies and make the most of your time in the UK.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I imagine they're quite selective. What are some of the key qualities that Chevening looks for in its applicants?
So again, academic excellence is absolutely essential. They want to see people with top grades who have a proven track record of success.
Hmm.
But they're also looking for demonstrable leadership potential. So have you taken initiative in the past? Have you led projects or teams? Have you made a difference in your community? Those are the kinds of things they're looking for.
Got it. So not just a good student, but a potential leader.
Precisely. And the final thing, and this is important, is that you have to be committed to returning to your home country after you finish your studies. The whole point of the Chevening Scholarship is to build global leaders who will go back and make a positive impact in their own countries.
Yeah. It makes sense that they would have that requirement. Okay, so we've talked about some of the, some of the key scholarship opportunities that are out there. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's talk about the application process.
Okay. Oh, good.
Because I know that this can be a bit daunting for people. Where do you even start?
Yeah, it can definitely feel overwhelming, but if you break it down into steps, it becomes a lot more manageable. So the first step, and this is absolutely crucial, is to do your research. Go to the Imperial College London Scholarships portal online. That's where you'll find a complete list of all the scholarships that are available, along with all the details, the eligibility criteria, the application deadlines, everything you need to know.
Okay, so step one, get familiar with that scholarships portal.
Exactly. Spend some time browsing through it, reading about the different scholarships, and figuring out which ones are a good fit for you. And, don't just focus on the big name scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of smaller, more specialized scholarships out there that might be a perfect match for your specific interests and qualifications.
Right. Okay, so you've done your research, you've identified some potential scholarships. What's the next step?
Step 2 is to start gathering your documents. Now, the specific documents that you need will vary depending on the scholarship that you're applying for,
Right.
but there's some common ones that you can pretty much guarantee you're going to need. So, first up, your academic transcripts. You'll need to provide official transcripts from all of your previous studies.
Okay, makes sense.
And then you'll need to write a personal statement. And this is where you really get to tell your story, explain why you deserve this scholarship, what your goals are, what you're passionate about. And this is your chance to really stand out from the crowd. So put some effort into this. Make it personal. Make it compelling.
Absolutely. That personal statement, I mean, that's your opportunity to really connect with the people who are reading your application, right?
Absolutely. You want them to get to know you, to understand what motivates you, what drives you. Because at the end of the day, they're not just looking for academic robots. They're looking for people with passion, with potential, with a story to tell.
Yeah. Okay. What else is usually in the document package?
So for most scholarships, especially at the postgraduate level, you're going to need letters of recommendation. And these need to come from people who know you well academically, people who can speak to your abilities, your work ethic, your potential.
So professors, supervisors.
Exactly. And make sure you choose people who are going to write you strong, positive letters. Don't just ask someone because they're famous or have a fancy title.
Right. Choose people who actually know your work and can speak to your strengths.
Exactly. And one more thing to keep in mind. If English isn't your first language, you probably need to provide proof of your English proficiency. So you might need to take a test like IELTS or TOEFL.
Okay, that's important for international students to remember.
Absolutely. Okay, so you've got your documents together. Step 3 is to submit your application early.
Early? Why early?
Because these scholarships are competitive, and the deadlines can sneak up on you. And you don't want to be rushing to put together an application at the last minute. You want to give yourself plenty of time to review everything, make sure it's perfect, and get it submitted well ahead of the deadline.
Yeah, makes sense. And what about interviews? Are those a common part of the process?
They can be. Not all scholarships require an interview, but some do, especially for the more prestigious ones.
Right.
And if you do get invited for an interview, congratulations. That means they're seriously considering you.
Yeah.
But you also need to be prepared. So think about the kinds of questions they might ask you. Why do you want to study at Imperial? What are your career goals? What are your strengths and weaknesses? And practice answering those questions out loud.
So basically just be prepared, right?
Exactly. The more prepared you are, the more confident you'll be, and the better you'll perform in the interview.
Okay, great. So we've talked about the application process, but let's get real for a second. These scholarships are competitive. There are a lot of people applying for them. What are some things that people can do to increase their chances of actually getting one?
Okay, so first and foremost, your grades matter. Academic excellence is the foundation of a strong scholarship application.
Right.
So if you're still in school, focus on getting the best grades you can. And if you've already graduated, make sure your transcripts are in good shape. Highlight any academic awards or honors you've received. And this might seem obvious, but it's worth repeating. Your personal statement needs to be amazing. It needs to be well-written, engaging, and it needs to tell a compelling story. Remember, this is your chance to showcase your personality, your passion, and your potential. So don't be afraid to let your personality shine through. And make sure you tailor your personal statement to each specific scholarship that you're applying for.
Right. Don't just use a generic personal statement for every application.
Exactly. Take the time to research each scholarship and highlight the specific experiences and skills that align with their values and objectives.
Okay. So, strong academics, a great personal statement. What else can people do?
Choose your referees carefully. Make sure you ask people who know you well and who are going to write you strong, positive letters of recommendation. Give them plenty of notice and provide them with all the information they need to write a compelling letter.
Okay. Good advice.
And finally, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Apply for multiple scholarships. The more scholarships you apply for, the better your chances of getting one. Obviously, make sure you meet the eligibility criteria for each scholarship before you apply.
Yeah. Makes sense. Okay. Now, let's flip the script a little bit. Let's talk about some of the common problems that people encounter when applying for scholarships, because I know there are some pitfalls that people can fall into.
Oh, absolutely. There's some classic mistakes that people make, and one of the most common is submitting incomplete applications.
Like forgetting to include a document.
Exactly. Or maybe they didn't fill out all the required fields in the online application form, or they attached the wrong document. These kinds of mistakes, they can instantly disqualify you. So the solution is simple. Attention to detail. Read the instructions carefully, double-check everything, and make sure your application is complete and error-free.
Okay. So be thorough. What other pitfalls should people be aware of?
Another common one is applying for scholarships that you're not actually eligible for.
Right.
People get excited, they see a scholarship that sounds amazing, and they just apply without really checking the eligibility criteria.
Yeah.
And then they waste their time and effort because they never had a chance to begin with.
Yeah. Okay. So read those eligibility criteria carefully.
Carefully, make sure you meet all the requirements before you even start working on your application.
Got it. Are there any other common mistakes that we should be talking about?
Yeah, a weak personal statement. It's amazing how many people submit generic, uninspired personal statements. They just list their accomplishments and their goals without any real heart or personality, and those kinds of personal statements, they just don't make an impact. So my advice is to really invest the time and effort into crafting a personal statement that is unique, authentic, and compelling. Tell your story, share your passion, and show the selection committee why you deserve this scholarship.
Yeah. Okay. So no cookie cutter personal statements.
Absolutely not. And then another classic mistake is missing deadlines.
Oh, yeah.
Late applications are almost always rejected. So get organized, set reminders, and make sure you submit your application well before the deadline. And, life happens, things come up, so give yourself a buffer. Don't wait till the last minute.
Good advice. Any other pitfalls to watch out for?
Yeah, one more that's worth mentioning is not providing enough evidence of financial need for scholarships that require it. Some scholarships are specifically designed to help students who wouldn't otherwise be able to afford to study at Imperial. And if you're applying for one of those scholarships, you need to be prepared to provide detailed financial documentation to support your claim. So gather your financial statements, your tax returns, any other relevant documents that can demonstrate your financial situation.
So be prepared to back up your claims with solid evidence.
Exactly. Okay. So we've talked about the application process. We've talked about some of the common pitfalls. Now let's talk about how to actually manage this whole process effectively.
Right, because it can feel overwhelming. Like, where do I start? How do I keep track of everything?
Absolutely. So the key is to be organized and proactive. Start early, ideally at least a year before you plan to enroll at Imperial. Create a timeline, map out all the deadlines, and break down the application process into smaller, more manageable tasks.
Okay, so create a roadmap for yourself.
Exactly. And then for each scholarship that you're considering, double-check the eligibility criteria. Make absolutely sure that you meet all the requirements before you invest any time in the application. And then set up a system for organizing your documents. Create folders, either online or physical, where you can keep track of your transcripts, your personal statements, your letters of recommendation, all that good stuff. And then when it comes to writing your personal statement, don't rush it. Give yourself plenty of time to brainstorm, write, revise, and edit. And don't be afraid to ask for feedback from trusted friends, family members, or mentors.
Yeah. Getting a fresh perspective can be really helpful.
Absolutely. And then make sure you request your letters of recommendation well in advance. Give your referees plenty of time to write you strong, detailed letters. And when you're choosing your referees, remember, quality over quantity. It's better to have 3 really strong letters from people who know you well than 5 mediocre letters from people who barely remember you.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, organize, prepare, start early. Any other tips for managing this process?
Yeah, couple more. One is to track your applications. Once you've submitted an application, keep a record of it, note the deadline, any communication you have with the scholarship committee, and the outcome of your application. And then the last tip, and this is an important one, is to stay positive. The scholarship application process can be competitive, and you may face some rejections along the way.
Yeah,
But don't let that discourage you. Each application is a learning experience, and the more you apply, the better you'll get at it. And even if you don't get the first scholarship you apply for, keep trying. There are lots of opportunities out there.
right. Persistence is key.
Absolutely. And, one more thing I would add is don't be afraid to ask for help. If you're feeling overwhelmed or you have questions about the process, reach out to someone. Talk to a scholarship advisor, a financial aid officer, a professor, a mentor. There are people who can help you.
Yeah, there are resources available. Now, you mentioned earlier the importance of networking. Are there any specific places or platforms where people can connect with others who have successfully navigated this process?
Yeah, there are a few great resources out there. LinkedIn is always a good place to start. You can connect with Imperial alumni, current students, scholarship advisors, all kinds of people who can offer insights and advice.
Okay, so use LinkedIn, reach out to people.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to reach out to people. Send them a message, ask for a quick chat, pick their brains. Most people are happy to help.
Yeah, okay. What else?
See if your current university or college has any alumni networks or mentorship programs. Those can be great ways to connect with people who have gone through the scholarship application process before. And attend events. Look for conferences, workshops, webinars, anything related to scholarships or studying abroad. You'll meet people, you'll learn new things, and you might even get some insider tips.
It's all about putting yourself out there.
Exactly. The more you network, the more opportunities you'll create for yourself.
Okay. Now, we talked about learning from successful applications, but is there anything to be gained from looking at applications that weren't successful?
Oh, absolutely. Learning from mistakes can be just as valuable as learning from successes. If you can find examples of unsuccessful scholarship applications, take a look at them. Try to figure out what went wrong. Were the grades too low? Was the personal statement weak? Were the letters of recommendation not strong enough? By analyzing these applications, you can identify potential pitfalls to avoid in your own applications.
That's a great point. So don't just focus on the success stories, learn from the mistakes of others as well.
Exactly. And, if you have any friends or mentors who have applied for scholarships before, ask them if they're willing to share their applications with you, both the successful ones and the unsuccessful ones. That kind of feedback can be incredibly valuable.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I think a lot of people listening are probably wondering, okay, what are my actual chances of getting a scholarship to Imperial? What are the numbers?
Yeah, that's a fair question. And I think it's important to be realistic. Imperial is a highly selective institution, and their scholarships are competitive. The acceptance rate for scholarships at Imperial hovers somewhere around 10–15%.
Wow, that's pretty selective.
It is. So it's not easy to get a scholarship, but it's definitely not impossible. And I think it's important to remember that these numbers are just averages. Your chances will depend on a lot of factors, including your academic record, your personal statement, your letters of recommendation, and the specific scholarship you're applying for.
Right. So basically, don't get discouraged by the numbers. Focus on putting together the strongest application you can.
Exactly. And even if the overall acceptance rate is 10–15%, there might be certain scholarships that have a much higher acceptance rate, or certain programs where they're really looking to attract more students.
Mm-hmm.
So don't get too caught up in the overall statistics. Focus on
Right.
the specific scholarship you're interested in.
Okay. That makes sense. Now, we talked about different types of scholarships earlier. What's the breakdown, like percentage-wise, of the different types of scholarships that are available?
So the vast majority of scholarships at Imperial are merit-based. They're awarded primarily based on academic achievement. And that makes up about 60% of the scholarships that are out there. And then the next largest category is need-based scholarships. So these scholarships take into account your financial situation and are designed to help students who might not otherwise be able to afford to study at Imperial.
Right.
And those make up about 30% of the available scholarships. And then the remaining 10% or so are scholarships that are specifically focused on supporting research.
Okay. So the majority are merit-based, followed by need-based, and then a smaller percentage for research.
Exactly. And I think that reflects Imperial's overall priorities. They're looking for the best and brightest students from all over the world, and they want to make sure that financial need is not a barrier to accessing a world-class education.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what about the average amount of these scholarships? Is there a typical range that people can expect?
It really varies. Some scholarships might just cover a portion of your tuition fees, maybe around £10,000 per year,
Okay.
while others, like the President's PhD scholarship, might cover your full costs and provide you with a generous stipend on top of that. And the specific amount will depend on the scholarship, the program you're applying for, and your individual circumstances.
Right, right. And are there any particular fields that tend to have more scholarship opportunities than others?
Yeah, it's worth noting that engineering, medicine, and business tend to have a higher volume of scholarship opportunities.
Makes sense given Imperial's strengths.
Absolutely. Those are some of Imperial's flagship departments, and they're areas where they're really investing in research and innovation.
Okay. Now, I think it would be really helpful for our listeners to hear about a real-world example of someone who successfully secured a scholarship to Imperial.
Definitely. Let's talk about Sarah Thompson. She's a great example of someone who used a strategic and proactive approach to win a scholarship.
Okay, tell me about Sarah.
So Sarah was interested in pursuing a master's in biomedical engineering at Imperial, and she knew that the program was competitive and that the tuition fees were high. So she started planning early. She did her research, she identified a few different scholarships that she thought she would be a good fit for, and she started working on her applications well in advance.
Good for her.
She made sure that her grades were top-notch, and she put a lot of effort into crafting a really compelling personal statement. She also reached out to professors who she had worked with closely during her undergraduate studies and asked them to write her letters of recommendation.
So she did everything right.
Yeah, she really put in the work, and it paid off. She ended up being awarded the President's Scholarship, which is one of the most prestigious scholarships that Imperial offers.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is, and it's a testament to her hard work, her dedication, and her strategic planning. And, her story really highlights the importance of being proactive, being organized, and putting your best foot forward.
Yeah, it's inspiring to hear about people like Sarah who really, put in the effort and achieve their goals.
Absolutely. And, it's not just about luck. It's about taking control of your future and making things happen.
Now, to add some additional context and credibility to our discussion, I think it would be really valuable to hear from some key figures at Imperial College London.
Oh, absolutely. Their perspectives can shed a lot of light on the institution's values and priorities when it comes to scholarships.
Exactly. So who should we be listening to?
Well, Professor Peter Haynes, the Vice Provost for Education and Student Experience at Imperial, has been very vocal about their commitment to diversity and attracting top global talent.
Okay.
He's particularly proud of a scholarship initiative that Imperial has launched that's aimed at supporting Indian scientists.
That's great.
Yeah, it shows that they're really committed to international collaboration and building a truly global community of scholars.
Yeah, fostering that kind of global exchange is so important.
It is. And another prominent figure who has spoken about Imperial's commitment to supporting international students is Alex Ellis, the British High Commissioner to India. He's been very impressed by Imperial's efforts to invest in young Indian talent, especially in the field of science. And he's particularly supportive of their focus on encouraging more women to pursue careers in STEM.
That's fantastic.
It is. And it shows that these scholarships aren't just about individual students. They're about building a better future for everyone.
Absolutely. Now, we talked about the various guides that Imperial provides, but we also know that sometimes navigating this process can be a bit tricky, and having some external guidance can be really helpful.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's really helpful to have someone to talk to bounce ideas off of,
Yeah.
to get feedback on your applications.
Yeah. And there are resources out there, right? Like LetzStudy, for example.
Exactly. LetzStudy is a great example of an organization that can provide personalized support to students who are applying for scholarships, including scholarships to Imperial College London. They can help you with everything from understanding the different scholarship options to writing your personal statement to preparing for your interview.
Okay. Can you give us some concrete examples of how LetzStudy has helped students in the past, obviously respecting anonymity and all that?
Sure. So one example is a student named Shantha Kumar. He was an aspiring engineer who was really excited about the prospect of studying at Imperial, but he was also completely overwhelmed by the whole scholarship application process.
I can imagine.
He had no idea where to start. There were so many different scholarships, so many different requirements. It was all very confusing. So he reached out to LetzStudy for help. And they provided him with personalized guidance. They helped him understand the nuances of the different scholarship options. And they worked with him to develop a strong application strategy.
So they kind of helped him cut through the noise and figure out what he needed to do.
Exactly. They helped him identify the scholarships that he was most likely to be successful for, and they gave him specific advice on how to tailor his applications.
And did it work?
It did. With LetzStudy's help, Shanthakumar was awarded a prestigious President's PhD scholarship. He was absolutely thrilled.
Mm.
And it wouldn't have been possible without the support and guidance that he received from LetzStudy.
Wow, that's a great story.
It is. And it just shows that sometimes having a little bit of expert help can make a world of difference.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any other examples you can share?
Yeah, there was another student named Rashath who had a slightly different challenge. He had already received an offer to study at Imperial, but he was struggling to secure funding.
Ah, the funding hurdle.
Exactly. He's an international student, and the costs were just too high for him to manage on his own. So he reached out to LetzStudy for help in finding scholarships.